Let's take a look at a front rack heel elevated squat. So this part here, getting into position, is like the most important part of this movement. And yet it's the part that most people feel the most uncomfortable with. Let's take a look at it in slow motion. So see how my hands are underneath the bar, just kind of lightly supporting, and my elbows are nice and high. That's what we're looking for with this movement. I'll go through a couple of other hand positions, but other setup cues, we want to make sure that our pelvis is nice and tucked before we start descending. We do want some heel elevation if possible here, so you can use a bumper plate, the edge of a rack. You could use your heel wedges here. And then as we descend, we want to make sure that we keep a fairly upright torso. We're looking for knee flexion or maximum knee bend at the bottom of this movement to help us bias our quads. Make sure that your spine stays nice and neutral here. You don't want to have any spinal flexion or rounding or bending. And we want to move through this movement with control. Maintain core engagement so that you don't fall forward or backward throughout this movement. Now again, the barbell holding is typically the hardest thing for people, so let's go through a couple of different ways that we can do this. So ideally, we're looking to get the barbell to rest up in front of our shoulders, but that can definitely be limited if you don't have a great range of motion. So again, just to get into position, use your hands to kind of lightly guide the barbell up and onto your shoulders, the front of them, and let it rest. But this right here is kind of the key that I think makes it so much more comfortable for most people. You're gonna kind of, I dream of Genie it. Simply release one arm, cross it over to the other shoulder, and rest it on top of the bar. The bar is gonna be resting on your shoulders, so you don't really need to hold it. You're just gonna be making sure that the barbell doesn't slip off. And then from there, you're just gonna descend into that squat. And then here, just gonna show this from the back so that you can kind of see you can get into this with that I Dream of Genie crossed arms position right from the rack if you prefer that method. Once you do, step back into that heel elevation and then descend, again, making sure that you maintain an upright torso. Don't let your chest fall down. And we're just going to take a look at a couple more reps here from the side. I'm just going to demonstrate a couple of key things again for you with and without the barbell. So again, here you can see maintaining that nice neutral spine, using the full range of motion for my personal body, maximizing that knee flexion, aka the knee bend. So I'm shortening the distance between hamstring, aka the back of my upper leg, and my calf, aka the back of my lower leg. Here we want to avoid, I'm kind of showing you what we want to avoid where we're losing control and kind of wiggle wobbling forward and backward. Heel elevation wise, we do want to make sure that we are using a heel elevation that's appropriate for us. I would typically use something a little bit lower, but this is how big the bumper plate was, but you can use heel wedges, making sure that we're coming up and down, making sure that we don't hinge at the hips too much. We're keeping that torso very upright. The pelvis should be in a neutral position. And again, keeping those elbows nice and high. The barbell should be resting on our shoulders, or if we're holding dumbbells, again, resting on our shoulders there. Controlling this movement up and down. This should not be something where we're wiggle wobbling a lot. And then just showing that crossover with the hands. And again, just making sure that you do balance it out after you get into that position. And then here, just stepping on to those wedges so that you can see this one more time. With this position, you can see the barbell is literally resting on my shoulders. It should be touching it and actually putting weight onto your shoulders a little bit here. Again, controlled, not having any spinal flexion, not going into a posterior or anterior pelvic tilt here.